Check, 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 check. Brittany, are you there? Yes, yes I do. Okay. Thanks, man. After a week of clouds and snow, I'm not used to it.
All these are for me? I'm so honored. Hello and welcome to Houston Food Bank. My name is Brian Green. I'm the president here at Houston Food Bank, and thank you for covering all the activities that are going on. I want to thank our guests, our very own Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, our very own Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for joining us today. So it's been a tough week. It's been said many times that disasters don't discriminate. That's not true. I'm not dismissing that this has been a tough time for almost everybody in Texas. I don't think anyone in Texas has had a fun week here. But the reality is, all the difficulties, how hard a disaster is for most of us, for some Texas families, they are a disaster on top of a disaster. So you think about all the things that we went through, losing power. Of course, that is not something that is uncommon for low-income families. So we experienced that, but our power comes back on. We lost water. Well, again, that is a bad experience. For low-income families, that's something that may not be that uncommon. But you think about how cruel a disaster is for low-income families on top of that. 40% of Americans do not have at least $400 that they can call upon in an emergency. So you think about the things that happen. So first off, businesses were closed. A cruel irony is that the more you make, the more likely it is that you will continue to be paid even if that business is closed. It is the hourly workers who then don't get paid. So they now lost income. So they also, when the power went off, they lost what was in the refrigerator and freezer. When their water pipes froze, if they burst and they caused damage, that, say, $400 or $500 that's going to cost, for most of us, yeah, that's a problem we're going to have to do without something, but it is not a disaster. For them, it is. So it's that cruel irony that disasters discriminate. But why is it that happens? Because not everybody has the means in order to take care of their families even in time of disaster, and that is fundamentally what needs to change. We want, at Houston Food Bank, yes, we are very proud to be able to help families when they're really struggling, but we wish they were not. And what we're really hoping for is an America where everybody is able to take care of their means because they have the income to do so. And that is ultimately what we're here to hope accomplish. So let me next introduce our very own Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia to give her remarks.
Yay! Thank you, and thank you all for being here this morning. And you know, I am just really pleased to be here at the Houston Food Bank, who I've collaborated with for many years on many events. But there has been no event like this one, where so many of us lost power, lost water, lost our Wi-Fi. You know, I didn't even really have much AT&T reception. I mean, I was on a pin drop. So a lot of us could not do what we're used to doing. But it hurts the vulnerable populations even more because we have older homes, so our pipes are apt to break more often. My district was totally in the dark. And I know that people are still hurting even today as our power is restored, as our water is back up, because we've got repairs to make. We've got weatherization issues. We've got to make sure that people have food and water. So help was on the way, and now help is here because my good friend, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, sent me a little text about, well, I want to do something. So I immediately said, whatever you do, include the Houston Food Bank, because they're about making sure that people don't go hungry, no matter what, no questions asked. So she said, okay. She hit $1 million in about 4 hours in the first day, and then she hit $2 million. And this morning she tells me that as of last night, they're at $3.2 million. Now that's pretty big even for Texas sizes. You know, we're from Texas, right? You know, who does things with New York? You know, we always kind of make fun of New York. But this time, we love New York.
Copy.
We love New York. So there's no better way to introduce her other than to say that she's a good friend, and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who's joined us, will agree that she is a rising star in the Democratic Party. She is a voice of conscience and with a heart, and she comes to Texas to help us, and she'll be with me all day today, seeing on the ground what is really happening. We don't have any fundraisers scheduled. We're not here to talk to the politicians. We're not here to do anything other than talk to people. We're going to knock on doors, and she's going to meet some of my constituents who need help, because she's going to be ready to make sure that the package and the ideas that I've already given Speaker Pelosi on what we need to do, that she's going to be there to support us to make sure that we all have a full recovery. With that, my friend Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York. Alex?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Representative Garcia. Thank you so much, Representative Jackson Lee, for welcoming us here to your district. You know, when disaster strikes, this is not just an issue for Texans. This is an issue for our entire country. And our whole country needs to come and rally together behind the needs of Texans all across the state. And, you know, as was mentioned earlier, disasters don't strike everyone equally. When you already have so many families in the state and across the country that are on the brink, that can't even afford an emergency to begin with, when you have a disaster like this, it can just set people back for years, not just for days. And so we have tragedy in this state. We need to rally around the state. We need to rally federal support for Texans and the state of Texas. And we need to make sure that we make short and long-term policy decisions so that this kind of devastation, preventable devastation, never happens again. And so I'm incredibly excited. You know, I think that as Representative Garcia mentioned, we hit $3.2 million in assistance for Texans across the state just last night. And I think this shows that New York stands with you, but the whole country stands with you. And as you mentioned, Representative Garcia, you know, we're in Texas, so we got to go big with that support. And so we hope to go even bigger. We hope to hit even more. Who knows, you know, if we can hit even 4, we'll see about that. But, you know, we really need to make sure that we're getting food and assistance to people across the state. As was mentioned, here at the Houston Food Bank, no questions are asked. So you come up and you need help, you do not have to prove a damn thing. Documentado o indocumentado, puedes tener asistencia y puedes tener ayuda aquí in the Houston Food Bank. If you are documented, undocumented, no matter what your income, no matter your housing status, you can get help here, which is one of the reasons why we are so proud to support the Houston Food Bank, because we want to help everybody. You need it, we'll be there. That's the New York spirit, that's the Texan spirit, that's the American spirit. So thank you all so much. And I'll introduce, oh, sorry.
Any questions, anybody? Alex?
So So we have the 3.2 million. We have selected 5 to 10 organizations. 100% of all donations go straight there. So we've got the Houston Food Bank. We've got ECHO, so we have elder care, support for our Texans that are currently homeless.
Randy, finally, we can say goodbye to the Arctic air around town after this morning where temperatures did get to frigid levels, and we did have a hard freeze warning for counties like Waller County and Montgomery County where those temperatures dipped down to the 20s. But after today, our temperaters will rise nicely and we'll see more sunshine over time. Not quite the case out there in the Galveston area where the Kemah Boardwalk, it does look a little murky. There was a little bit of some moisture hanging around right along the coastal areas where there is a very light to calm wind coming around. But overall, we can see much of the region enjoying a nice, comfortable movement of air around town. The sun is shining nicely, and as a result, our temperatures will be rising in throughout the midday hours into the mid-50s, and the afternoon hours looking pretty good, getting up into the low 60s, which is something we...
You know, when we hit $1 million in 4 hours, it felt like, you know, what this meant was that our country was asking us all to come together with that. And I'm aware that a lot of us have the privilege also of being vaccinated. And I think that comes with an elevated responsibility to step up and help as public servants. And so when we hit $1 million and then we hit 2 million, it was like, all right, we got to get on a plane now. So that's one of the big reasons why we headed over.
I think we were visiting about it, and I think when she heard that I didn't have water and didn't have power and was having to use a water bucket to fill my toilet so I could get substitute for flushing, I think she sort of went like, wow. I mean, she got the flavor of how devastating this event has been for everyone across the board, but more particularly, again, for people in my district and Sheila's district in the vulnerable areas where we have the older homes, the older pipes, and the less access to services. So we're going to be visiting the district and making sure that she gets a good first on-the-ground look at what is really going on. It's more than just reading it in the paper and looking at it on the news, no offense, y'all, but you know, being there and really touching people makes a huge difference, and I hope that it means that it'll encourage her to double to 3 million.
You know, for me, I think what's important is to focus on the responsive leaders that are here on the ground. We have Representative Jackson Lee, who represents the Houston Food Bank. We have Representative Sylvia Garcia. They are here, and they're on the ground, and they're helping Texans, and they're knocking doors of their neighbors. And so what I think is really important is let's focus on the folks who are doing the work, on the leaders and the champions, and I mean, the women here, hello, that are doing the work. So, you know, my response is let's give it up to the ladies out here in Houston and across the state who are just kicking butt and making sure that families are getting fed and that their water's turned on.
I love it.
Well, I just want to say that the response could be better from our state leadership. It could have been better in preparation, and it better step up and be better in doing a full independent investigation on why this incident happened, why they didn't weatherize, why didn't they prepare, what are they going to do, and make sure that they do it in a transparent, fair, and equitable fashion. There will need to be reforms at ERCOT, and I urge the legislature to do that, and they should include looking at whether or not to join the federal grid. I think everything should be on the table. Texans do not want to go through this again. They want accountability. They want to know why the system failed and, quite frankly, almost broke. So I think that Sheila and I and others will be working with our colleagues in Austin to make sure that gets done. We do not need to go through this again. Sheila, did you want anything on that one?
Yeah, may I? I think, first of all, Sylvia, Congresswoman, my sister, and want to make sure I say it in Spanish.
Say it in Spanish.
She's my sister.
Hermana.
Hermana, thank you. This leaves me at an unspeakable and emotional moment. And in the backdrop, I have 20 years of experience with 20 years of neglect by the state of Texas as it relates to the most vulnerable populations. Congresswoman Garcia and myself had areas, maybe the entire areas of our district, a lot of vulnerable people, a lot of essential workers, a lot of marginal people, a lot of documented and undocumented, but they are our residents. They are our brothers and sisters. And we know that so many of them suffered hardships, even more than you might imagine. We were getting calls from children, adult children, whose parents lived in older homes left behind, that were trying to get them out of the freezing conditions because they thought they might die during the night. That was unacceptable and unnecessary. And so by Congresswoman Garcia and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez coming together in this spirit, coming here to the Houston Food Bank, which I love and have worked with and represent, it answers the questions of those who don't expect anyone to come to their rescue. Don't expect that someone says, I care. Don't expect to feed a single parent with 5 children who is the only breadwinner. This is why this is so emotional and so moving. I am supporting well checks right now because we really don't know. This is a big city, and we've been without power. We don't know who is still in their home and possibly who didn't make it. By giving to elder care, the food bank, it is a lifeline for so many of our constituents who never, Hurricane Harvey, it goes, you try to get back on your feet, but a freeze, no one can comprehend that. And so we are excited about the dollars. Thank you, Brian Green, because we know that what happens here is a blind justice. It doesn't matter who you are, people know to come to the food bank, and they know to come to food pantries. You're helping so many because food pantries that the food bank helps. So thank you so very much, and appreciate it.
Thank you all. We're going to roll up our sleeves and go work.
Thank you all for coming out today. That concludes our press conference. Have a good day.
Where's the photo spray?
That was it. We got behind.
I got a question. Are we allowed to go and photograph the workers, volunteer workers?
That's up to the food bank if they want to let you in.
Who would I talk to?
I would go to the front.
Right here?
We do have a photographer and a photo person that are pooling
Okay.
who are going to share that have been allowed to go in.
Who's going to photograph them for touring,
Yes.
right? Right, I understand. Okay.
Okay.
So they will share that?